In what ways did your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media? In my film, I wanted to keep the typical film noir conventions, which gave the films a unique quality. The most prominent themes in my film are crime, death, deception and pain. However, I wanted to challenge them and mirror today's society and attitudes, which are very different to the views in the 1940s and 1950s, which is when film noir was most popular. For the character of Nina, I wanted her to appear different to her malicious personality. I used lighting to do this by having her look into a circular mirror with a circular light around the outside. I wanted this to symbolise a halo. She appears innocent, however she has the ability to kill. I wanted to portray her as a fallen angel, which is the impression most femme fatales gave me. They look pretty, weak and passive, yet have the power to ruin and take lives and deceive. Sound is yet another technique used in film noir to build tension, and could also be used as a signifier. Monotone drones were effective at building suspense. I also used these throughout my opening as I wanted something simple which wouldn't take away from the voiceover. It also adds a sinister tone to my opening. Another effect of sound I used was a heartbeat. This is a creative way to portray the true emotions of the character Christopher. Voiceovers in film noir were usually used to narrate a story from the main character's point of view. I, however, wanted to challenge this. Christopher doesn't narrate what is happening. He discusses topics such as love and life. I wrote the script in order to portray him as a complex, intelligent man. When writing the voiceover, I wanted to add subtle clues about what will be happening in the rest of the film. When Christopher asks,
"They say the captain goes down with the ship, so when the world ends, which it will God go down with it?"
This is a metaphor for the organisation and how Janet is the captain, and if it failed, would she go down with them? How does your media product represent particular social groups? In classical film noir, women were often presented as passive, weak, or deceptive and evil. These were also referred to as the femme fatales. However, in classical film noir, this would often backfire, such as in Kiss Me Deadly, where the femme fatale was killed. In my film, I wanted the women to be dangerous, but also powerful. This was most obvious through the character of Janet, the mastermind behind the criminal organisation who is feared by all the other characters, including the men. In my opening, Janet kills a jealous younger woman whose intentions were to kill Christopher. This presented Nina as a naive, dangerous character, which is very similar to the classical interpretation of the femme fatale. I thought this was necessary because I wanted to challenge the stereotypes of middle-aged women. Janet is 45 with a husband and child. At the time classical film noir was most popular, housewives would be expected to do as they were told, cook, clean, and look after the children. There was no power associated with these types of characters. However, in today's society, women are more independent, and it's more common for them to go out and earn their own money and share the workload in the home with the husbands. I wanted Janet's character to challenge this stereotype. She lies to her husband about her job, and she's the partner making all the money, and although she stays at home a lot of the time to take care of her child, Charlie, she's also running a huge criminal organisation. This deception she has on her husband makes her character exciting, which from my audience research proved very popular. Both males and females enjoyed how daring she was, and considered her a bit of a rebel, which is often associated with younger adults or teens. What kind of media institution might distribute your film, and why? When creating my film, I realised that the genre wouldn't appeal to a broad audience as it is more stylised and artistic, therefore aiming at a niche target audience. Artificial Eye distributes more artistic films rather than a company such as Universal, which distributes blockbusters, which typically saturate the market. I did, however, consider other companies such as Working Title. This was another possible option as it had a relationship with the large conglomerate Universal. This means Working Title will have a larger budget, therefore enabling them to reach larger audiences. I decided against this as I believed my film would only appeal to a niche target audience. Artificial Eye owns Curzon Cinemas, which only shows smaller indie films. This would be good for my film as I believe it attracts people who are passionate and appreciate more stylised independent British films rather than blockbusters. Curzon Cinemas are known, and I quote, a leading UK label for the best independent, art house and foreign language cinema. My target audience will be from the ages 18 to 65. I've decided to aim my film at a wide variety of ages because not only will it appeal to some young adults for its active storyline with exciting plot twists, I believe it will also attract the older generations because it's more stylised and a modern version of an old-fashioned film. I have chosen the age 18 due to the themes of strong violence, and also I don't believe many young people would be interested in watching a more stylised film and perhaps wouldn't appreciate the genre as much as older years would. I also estimated the age of 65 because people over that age might not be so keen on violence or the other themes within the film. Also, ages 15 to 45 are the most regular cinema customers. Therefore, if I was to estimate any higher over 65, that would not be a realistic goal. Despite the large age gap, the audience would still be niche as it's aimed at people interested in more artistic and creative films, therefore not appealing to mainstream audiences. In order to attract an audience for my film, I used popular well-known faces in my school. This encouraged people to watch a friend feature in a serious film, yet creating humour for them because it's a familiar face opposed to a famous one. Another way I attracted my audience was offering them something different, something they'd perhaps never seen before. The inspiration of film noir makes a change from the typical popular genres that are in cinema, such as action, comedy and romance. This way proved to be the most effective. I began the course with only knowledge on how to work iMovie. Throughout the course I have been developing my understanding and skills in Final Cut Pro X. At first this was very confusing, however with the help from teachers and other students I got a basic knowledge on the software. I wanted to achieve more complex effects, I had to look them up on YouTube. The tutorials I watched were great at explaining how to do certain things such as the split screen, which proved to be the most complex skill I'd learned on the software. I now feel confident using Final Cut Pro X. GarageBand is another software I'd never used before. I used it to create the music for my film, and as someone who has no musical talent I again found this very difficult to begin with. After experimenting with sounds and effects, I eventually reached a simplistic track I was happy with, and I now feel more confident with it, and could perhaps create a more complex track. I've also been able to use and experiment with sites such as GoAnimate, Prezi and WordPress, all of which I've never used before. WordPress was a great easy way of getting my work up onto my blog quickly and easily. I believe my skills have developed a lot since the preliminary task. It taught me how to use 3 main techniques. Number 1. The 180-degree rule. This is where all coverage should generally be shot from one side or the other from an imaginary line. An example of this is how the character in our preliminary task are having a conversation, and I again used it when the characters in my film appear to be walking towards each other. Number 2. Match on action. This is when only the first and last bit of an action is shown, such as when the door is opened and it cuts to her walking through the door, the final movement. This helps to create a sense of continuity, as it gives the impression of a completed movement. Number 3. Short reaction shot. This is commonly used in conversations when it shows the opposing character's reaction to the other. This was most noticeable in my film when Nina is holding a gun to Christopher and it cuts to his reaction. All of these 3 skills taught me the importance of continuity in a film and made it easier to apply these to my final film. Thank you for watching my film. Hope you enjoyed it.